Tulsi Gabbard. Listen, you're barely old enough to even run for president. You're still in your mid-30s. You were I think, the youngest woman ever elected to state legislature. When you got to Congress, you were the youngest woman. Why did you decide so early in life to commit to public service? Why did you do all that stuff at such a young age?
Growing up in Hawaii, I had not only the fortunate experience of learning about what it means to live aloha, which aloha is more than just hello and goodbye. Aloha really means that we recognize each other as brothers and sisters. And that when we say aloha to one another, we're saying that I'm coming to you with an open heart and with love and compassion and care and respect. And so I gradually experienced, even from a young age, that I was most happy when I was doing things to help other people.
You were sitting in office, you could have gone off to do something else.
Yeah.
You decided to quit and go put yourself in a war zone. Why'd you do that?
You're right. I mean, being a state representative in Hawaii, being with my family, being with my friends, it was something that I would have been very happy to continue to do, but I knew that there was no way that I could stay home and be safe and comfortable while my brothers and sisters went off to war on the other side of the planet. That's why I left my re-election campaign, volunteered to deploy, got trained in a job that they needed someone to fill, and went to serve with them, to serve our country.
Well, now that you are in Congress, you got a whole bunch of even younger people coming up behind you. They're calling the president MFers and doing sit-ins and all kind of weird stuff. So, how do you evaluate this new batch of young women coming in?
There's a huge group of new members of Congress that were just sworn in on January 3rd. And I tell you, just sitting there on the House floor, the energy was different.
Why?
Because of the new stories, the diversity, the new experiences that were coming to serve in the People's House, knowing that they were representing so many other people, maybe many people whose voices had never been heard before. So there's so much positive energy, and I think the most important thing now is what we started out with, which is we've got to focus that energy on actually getting things done for the people.
Absolutely.
And not just partisan name calling.
That brings me right back to where I want to go, which is about 2020. Are you going to run for president of the United States and do something about it? Do you think she should? Do you think she should? Are you going to run?
I have decided to run and will be making a formal announcement within the next week.
Whoa. I got some ratings. That's amazing.
Look, there are a lot of reasons for me to make this decision. There are a lot of challenges that are facing the American people that I'm concerned about and that I want to help solve. Issues relating to making sure that people who are sick get access to the health care that they need, making sure that people who are stuck in our broken criminal justice system and the families that are torn apart are being helped, that are being served, making sure we're taking action to protect our planet for us and for the future. There's a whole host of issues that I'm looking forward to addressing, and there is one main issue that is central to the rest, and that is the issue of war and peace. And I look forward to being able to get into this and to talk about it in depth when we make our announcement.
Well, first of all, it's amazing to hear that you're going to run. What makes you want to run to be president in the middle of this mess?
You know, in my camp that we were at in Iraq, there was a big sign that was at one of the main gates where the patrols would go in and out every day. And that sign read in big block letters, "Is today the day?" And we saw this sign almost every day. And it was a reminder that any moment, any day could be our last. Causing me to think about, how am I living my life? How am I making the most of the time that I have? Because my day could come tomorrow. My day could come in a year. It could come in 10 years. Who knows? None of us knows the answer to that question. And so I carry that with me every single day of my life and do my best, not only to live my day as if it could be the last, but to make sure that the time that I have, I'm doing the very best I can to be of service to others, to be of service to the people of this country.
Well, listen, I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful to hear that, and to hear your dedication and your commitment. Look, what are your first steps? How do you see this race? This is a very crowded field, possibly. How do you see yourself moving from where you are now, a well-known but very young Congresswoman, to being the nominee of your party and the president of your country? What are your next steps? What do you see as your challenges now?
Well, like I said, we'll be making a formal announcement, hopefully within the next week. And from there, kicking off a tour to be able to go and visit with people in all parts of the country, both to hear their stories and to be able to share and have these discussions about the direction that we need to see forward for our country, to build that brighter future with peace and prosperity for everyone.
I'm all for peace and prosperity and not war and austerity. Help me, though. You must have looked at some of the other people who are running. You know, Bernie Sanders, you did something that nobody thought you were going to do. Probably most people thought you shouldn't have done. They had anointed you to be the next great queen of the Democratic Party establishment. They made you the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and you threw that away in the last election cycle, and you endorsed Bernie Sanders. Why did you do that?
First of all, my goal has never been to be queen of the Democratic establishment. No. Never once entered my brain. So let's just put that one aside.
Wasn't that tempting in the first place? Okay.
You know, it comes back to doing what's right.
Yeah. Why do you think that was right?
Doing what I believe is right.
What was right about that?
In that election, I was a vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, something that I was surprised to be asked to do just a few weeks after I got elected. But went in trying to make a positive impact. But in that position, you're supposed to remain neutral in primaries, in Democratic primaries. But as the primary election kicked off in 2016, I saw very quickly that I could not stand silently on the sidelines as a veteran when I saw that the issues of war and peace, the issue of the cost of war, was not being brought forward in this most important decision about who our next commander-in-chief would be. There were very stark differences between Secretary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on this issue, and ultimately that was the main reason why I resigned and left that position and endorsed Bernie Sanders, to bring forward what those contrasts were so people could make an educated choice.
Well, what if Bernie runs? What you just announced, what if Bernie announces? What you going to do?
Bernie's a good friend. We've talked.
Oh.
I don't know what his plans are,
right.
But I know that that both of our hearts are focused on serving and fighting for the American people.
This party is such a demographic kind of jigsaw puzzle. You know, the African American vote and the woman vote and this vote and that vote. I mean, you're you're a female veteran Hindu, blah blah blah. I mean, how do you deal with putting this jigsaw puzzle together?
This is part of the problem with why our country is becoming as divided as it is because people are focusing, self-serving politicians are focusing on dividing the American people based on these labels and, well, you fit in that box and you can't step outside of that box, rather than actually getting to the heart of who are we as Americans. What are the values and the freedoms and the principles that we stand for, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of the way we choose to worship or if we choose to not worship at all. These things that make our country diverse are all centered around this strong foundation of these core principles and values that are enshrined in our Constitution. And recognizing that connectedness that we have will give us that strength and courage that is necessary to overcome those self-serving politicians and greedy corporations and those who are acting for their interests and not the interests of the people.
Well, you know, that's a kind of a populist message, but it doesn't sound like the kind of populism I hear from Donald Trump. So how would you take on a Donald Trump? I mean, you seem kind of aloha, and he seems kind of aloha. He's not trying to aloha with your ha.
Aloha. Aloha, which essentially means love. Love for each other, love for our country, should not be mistaken for just some feeling. Love is action. When you love someone, you will do anything to fight for them. When you love something, you will go to the end of the earth to fight for it. Love gives us strength. Love gives us courage. Love gives us what we need to overcome those forces of darkness. One of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Martin Luther King, and you know this, where he says, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that."
Wow.
Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Give a round of applause. It's amazing to have you here. It's very, very good.